Like right now, everybody's in greed and fear. They have a short-term perspective that they're like, who, I got to sell first before somebody else sells, and that's just part of the cycle. And that's, exactly where we're at. And what is going to benefit us most is looking long term. I mean, that was the intent of the 15-year stake to begin with, and it has the math to back it. The tech is already there. What we need is consciousness to catch up. Like, we need people to understand. We need to onboard, and we need to lengthen our perspective. Like, because that's
well. Imagine the excitement whenever they came over with the U.S. dollar and creating the dollar, and the level of whenever all that was going down, like it had to be a long-term vision, right? And yes, it got corrupted and it got taken over. But benevolent forces of the blockchain are benevolent forces of the blockchain. But 414 can mean two things, right? It's the bringer of heavenly light, or an angel, or the destroyer of worlds. And I think that they're trying to show us that the more people that we onboard, because regardless of what happens, there's going to be, it can go one of two ways. The money's going to come here. The people are going to come here. It's just a matter of who gets wealthy again this time, right? Is it the right type of people that are going to do benevolent and bring more benevolent people? Or is it just going to be the rich that just continue to step in and become more powerful in this scenario, in which, at least this time we have the ability to onboard. We have maybe not the, time is of the essence, of course, but I think 414 is acting benevolently. I think 414 knows more than what they lead on. And I think that there are breadcrumbs that are left for people to find, to where then they can go dig in with, and do their research. And, some things that have yet to be disclosed, or, actual intent. Yeah, I mean, like we see a lot of it going into pdai and being burnt. The value of being able to use an illiquid asset and make it like an illiquid asset that pumps it, a liquid asset that pumps as if it's illiquid, because it's building its own liquidity with an illiquid asset, right? So there's like 20 million in like value over there, but it can still pump as if it's illiquid. If that makes any sense, because it's literally bought up so much pdai, and we know that utilizing the same contracts, the same pdai contract and the same other contract, when using Block Atlantica and this AI technology, which is allowing them to mint DAI, we would not be able to do that unless the blockchain or the code itself, was telling us to. So it's different than the US dollar, because they can just put their foot on the pedal and mint as much as they want out of thin air. At least we're not doing that out of thin air. I think consensus would agree that we deserve more liquidity on the blockchain. How do you do that? Well, I mean, unlike the stock market, the stock market's liquidity to market caps they kind of make sense. What Richard did with Hex was he's front running the ability to mint value, but have it backed by something that there's a community, a consensus of value there, right? And then utilizing AI written by man but governed by code gives us and him or whoever the AI practically tells us how much we can mint. There's a reason why it stopped at 22 billion between all these other assets. There's a reason why the number 8 keeps flying around. We know that there was a snapshot of $8 billion in value worth of Hex for the maker chain, which is going to be a copy of, a consensus of proof of work for the stake. But even then, they're not minting DAI. They're minting wrapped DAI. They're minting wrapped USDT. They're minting wrapped versions. So they're creating a more decentralized DAI that's going to be minted on a chain, that's going to be sent somewhere to then be minted and backed at the same time. All the while siphoning US dollars off chain with actual real world associations with businesses and things like that. And that's why he's pointing out the fact of being able to tie an OX address to a YouTube or an OX address to just, other things, right? Because that's how you onboard the masses without them even realizing it. And it's a brilliant way to be able to actually take US dollars and move it off chain. If you look, I posted something about, Gnosis Safe at one time, or, a few years ago, had 20 billion US dollars, but it was locked at the time. And I think that's because they were waiting for something to come along to where they could use that and actually mint that 20 billion, but have it backed at the same time. That 20 billion alone would peg all three assets to $1, and they would be, they wouldn't peg though, right? Because I don't believe in the whole peg thing, but they could reach them all. I think it needs about $1 billion in each one to get to $1, but they would essentially all have then like 4x, over $1 in all of them. So the question still remains, how much are they minting? We do know that they went to SuperChain. SuperChain itself is WorldCoin. WorldCoin is connected to all the layer 2s. We do know Polygon has AgLayer. This is privacy. We know Hopper, which is on Gnosis, live on Gnosis, allows it's another privacy type function using RPCH. This is all on Gnosis at the moment. We do know that Spark launched on Gnosis, but it's very hard to find it because I believe that they were utilizing this function of being able to have the Hopper network, and you can so you can still use MetaMask, or you had to use MetaMask. But I was running this test last night to where it was this website. I'm not saying anyone go do this, but I tested with a random wallet, and I connected to it at first, and it's called Derp. Like if you Google Derp MetaMask test, so when you do it at first, it'll pop up your IP address, your location, and everything. And then whenever I ran through Docker, which is a terminal, into something called Tunnel, and used a snippet of code from the actual atropa contract, that then whenever I went to the Derp network and tried to do this, it couldn't connect to me. There was something called ProtoFire, which is essentially a fork of Gnosis, the same type of thing that doesn't even say it works on PulseChain, but clearly does.
One thing that I was researching is that Ethereum apparently has like a privacy layer for corporations, and it's hidden from the public. I'm not sure how true it is yet, and I haven't really dove into it since I was meme pointing for a couple weeks. But it might be something interesting because if PulseChain's a fork of Ethereum, I wonder if it had some sort of play or if it's on PulseChain. But I mean, hopefully that gives you something to look into.
Yeah. So there's a weird token called Charts for You. And now, if you go to Charts for You on Ethereum, it'll say, like, once you actually run the code and look at the code, you can freeze tokens to have them unlock at a later date. And there's like secret tokens that are attached to it. And you have to be holding a certain amount of these tokens to open up this layer, which sounds a hell of a lot like the atropa bonding and things like that. So I think yeah, you're definitely onto something. But yeah, if y'all go look at this, just Charts, the number 4, and then You on chain on Ethereum. There's definitely a fork of it, but over on Pulse, I believe it's called something completely different. But like some of the functionalities is, freeze tokens, unlock, and then mint. And I think you can actually mint tokens yourself utilizing these contracts. I tried, and then it prompted me to do like some other weird stuff where it gave me told me to give him my Telegram name, and that the block SEC, which is this really cool functionalities to be able to launch test contracts, simulations, and all this stuff. You can fork a network in the blink of an eye. So, I mean, in my opinion, that's exactly what they had to have done to literally fork a network at any point in time, take a snapshot at any time. And, I think that, yeah, there's a lot more work that was going on behind the scenes. But they're also showing you that it's all open source. So if anyone can do it, just like the DAI, anyone can run the front end of SDAI. Anyone can run the front end of anything that's happening on Pulse with the knowledge and the capabilities. But the fact of the matter is, anyone can run it. You just have to know how. You have to go in and do it. I mean, like I said, I'm no dev, but I mean, I can read the functions and be like, this is really interesting, right? And I think what Torin touched on earlier, it's like, oh yeah, believe me, I think it goes deeper than even what I think it goes even deeper than what I've uncovered. I mean, even if I'm 5% correct, we're all going to be going, man, I wish I would have onboarded more people. There was a fork of something called My Finance. So it was a fork of DAI, right? And it literally was, they were using Balancer to back the value of it. And you can see that it only depegged once in November. It dropped to 75 cents. And then as of a few days ago, it recovered and is back up to like 98 cents, which is around, I think it was $27 million in stables spread all over the place, but 16 million of it was sitting on Polygon. Yeah, that was like, I thought that was interesting because then we know that a fork of DAI can be backed and collateralized. And not only if it depegs, it can recover, right? So, I mean, it had 182 different assets backing it, which is, I'm sure, is a stretch. But I think that they were just trying to prove that it can be worked. It was copied onto Pulse as well, right? And it seemingly, even though the value on Ethereum is dead, like they rugged it, but it seems like they're still using it on PulseChain too. Because we were like, man, let's go buy out because the Q DAO was the DAO that was like behind it, QI DAO. And then, like I said, most of the value was sitting on Polygon at that time, which was the exact same amount of money of DAI and other tokens that were being minted and being utilized on Superchain, around 16 million. I mean, coincidence? Possibly. Am I crazy? Maybe. But the number 8 keeps popping up everywhere. 8 billion this, 88 billion this. It's just, I think the breadcrumbs are there. But yeah, it's ultimately up to the rest of y'all and myself to continue to dig so we can at least do the research and do it together, because no one person could uncover any of this without being tried or tested and looked into by some of the smartest people on the, that I know of on the blockchain, which happens to be the people on PulseChain.
Gnosis has already released. They're already running this thing called super oracles, which is like a deterministic type of thing to where they can set a price and they can peg it to anything. And then you put bids in and you do certain things to where if you don't believe it's that price, you have to outbid the other person. So if you think it's worth less or more, it kind of works like in a cloud liquidity circumstance to where everything is all paired together, but it's a clouded liquidity bubble, to where if you believe it's that value and people think it's that value, or if you don't, you have to put up value against each other. And then that's kind of how they incentivize the people in the network. So that's one thing that they've done, is kind of utilize a system to where it's a belief mechanism and you put your money where your mouth is type system. Again, that's something you have to look into. But I think Atropa, like you said, to be able to hold the peg, number one, the Atropa ecosystem being layered the way that it is, with the botting mechanics on there that have multiple use utilities. Number one is covered traffic and cover nodes, which is why I believe Go Pulse launches a bunch of different tokens. So depending on how many real people are utilizing the network, it actually launches more or less tokens based on that. So if any type of AI or computer scanner tried to track people versus bots, they wouldn't be able to tell, because Atropa, number one, has had this vision to where they launch these assets to where some of them go down forever, but it mimics a real economy in a way to where, some people do really good with their money and real smart about it, or some people are really stupid with their money and, do random things. But the bots will always trade something, because the way that X times Y equals K, it never goes to zero. So if something tried to run a scanner on Pulse, right, whenever this reaches or it gets to, it wouldn't be able to know like what's human versus what's not. And then you cannot, one of the main reasons tokens depeg are
bots, like flash loans. And we know, number one, if you try to take a flash loan out against DAI itself, you only get 50, you get 66 tokens to the dollar. So you can only, I think that's why DAI was so sought after to begin with, because you couldn't flash loan it. But that's why they created SDAI, which allows you to 20x it. And then literally 2 days ago, they onboarded the ability to do that same thing with USDT and USDC. And the bots play a role in to where we know atropa is layered all the way up. Like, so circle 2 is practically double the price of atropa. So the bots won't have to, and it's layered all the way up to the top. So if someone tried to flash loan or tried to hurt the price, like, so this is a theory. So the bots would then push the price down or push the price up to a certain point if someone tries to sell so much liquidity out of the pdai ecosystem. It would front run them in a sense. So it's like an AMM, which we already see happening with the price stability module, right? So it makes it to where no matter what, someone buying or selling, it's a way for them to take a few cents in, depending on how much they're buying. They push the price up or down to where it's always going to be, but the price stability module works in pennies and cents. But we do know that MakerChain is launching a token that's going to fluctuate from 75 cents to $1.25. Now, maybe we don't see that. Maybe it's always sold for $1. But those big swings that maybe we do see or we don't see could make it to where they could literally help back pdai in a sense as well, to where if it did drop, that they would be able to then utilize that functionality to push it right back up to $1. That's all theory. But I think that there probably will be a functionality to where if you try to sell so much liquidity, it's going to push you to a pool that is so illiquid, and you're going to eat a shit ton of slippage. That's my that's what I think. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think. You said everything good. I think that's where you lose people though, where you get smart, right? Like, I think the way to onboard, when we keep talking about onboarding, is literally game. Like, if we can show that there's a game in the future for this.
So I was looking into some sells and buys through CowSwap, which we only know one person that usually uses CowSwap, but it was utilizing, it was going in and out of Hex, and it was also buying this token called Cypher, SIPHER, which is tied directly to some sort of a game. That's already downloadable. It's on Google, and I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I think you're right. I think Phoenix Labs is actually specializes in video games, so I think you're onto something with that. And Insomnia itself is a video game too, right? It's a MUD or whatever. So, I mean, maybe, that might be, like I think a lot of this might be onboarding people that don't even know they're being onboarded. But yeah, I think gaming is definitely,
when you're putting a significant amount of money into a brand new layer one, you're not going to do that for something you can get on Solana. You're going to do that to get early exposure to something that you know is going to grow and change the landscape, and is already doing that. So, the thing is, if you do this right and you start launching meme coins off of no nukes, for example, you are contributing to the growth of atropa in a much larger way than you can really imagine. So if you just buy up some no nukes and start launching meme coins and start and direct people away from just buying Pulse and then your meme, because now you're just competing against each other and it's a stupid game that never wins. You just launch it on no nukes, or you launch it on any other token in atropa, and now all of a sudden all that outside capital is coming into the entire ecosystem and you're just feeding it. And I think that's going to be the end game.
That is, yep, I agree. I mean, there's a reason why the MakerChain is launching DAOs and sub-DAOs, but yeah, I think we need to build, and we have to, and it's going to have to be in a non-PvP way. That's why I love what Sonny's built, and his contracts are made to be, worked, and if you're benevolent in your actions,
well, right? Exactly what you just said is, other than the meme part, is my entire ecosystem. Like, Bear is mostly Bear liquidity burned that just buys and sends out teddy bear. Like 414 is the same thing, but attached to a whole bunch of burned LPs with atropa coins that has LPs of LPs of LPs. So it's growing all those LPs in the background, and then has 8 coins in the atropa ecosystem attached to it.
Right, and that's what Maria said, right? Build like I did, or attempt to build like I did. I think, yeah, Sonny was definitely onto something, and still is.
So like when I built to support that ecosystem and all the whole ecosystem, I built something, one, that I'm barely even in, but I built something that just runs on its own, works forever, and if people want to join it, they can, right? Like people that understand the math and hold it, they're all happy, and people that will buy and sell it, they just feed all the people that hold it, right? But all that just puts buy pressure on every other coin that it's attached to, and I could do that in ways where other people don't get that money, and that money is used for a number of things. You know, if collectively we wanted to make a token that all of the rewards, and there was no reason for anyone to ever buy it, but it just runs in the background and creates a token, you could then turn that token into a game token and just give it to people, because we'd be constantly printing it for free while raising the price of the token it rewards. Like that's the game that I saw in Atropa, was how to make all these LPs work. And like, still don't see any magic bots. I still don't see any actual AMM bots. There's front run, well, not front run, well, there are front run bots, but there's arbitrage bots, and that's just people making money. They're taking money out of the ecosystem because people don't understand slippage. But all that just feeds and feeds and feeds LPs, and like production quality, burning over 50% of your asset before a launch. Like these are real things that moving forward in crypto will be adapted, and you know, you'll never play another shitcoin with one LP in it.
Go look at any other chain and like go look at the tokens in LPs, and then go to PulseChain and you'll see hundreds of tokens in these liquidity pools. It's wild.
Didn't Maria kind of directly tell you that there's value in creating a tax ecosystem as well? I think you leave that part out a lot.
I mean, on camera it was acknowledged when we spoke about it over coffee. Forward never, like, none of the tokens are taxed. It just wasn't part of the math that was ever, like, you know, thought of really, right? So like after conversing about it and thinking about it, like it really sparked some good ideas, and you know, a lot of that gave me the confidence. It was after that I came and finished out my ecosystem.
Do you think Pulse was specifically built to peg these assets?
Pulse is you know, Pulse was built to be the most liquid crypto chain there is, and it literally probably was at launch. If it wasn't at launch, it is now. Every LP attached to wrapped Ethereum is here. So every LP is here. So like right off the bat, we're the most liquid chain, right? And then we build on top of that, like, you know, maybe Solana is pumping out more shitcoins than that, but like overall, I don't know that there is another chain with this much like different liquidity, right? There's more money for sure, but like, I mean, Bitcoin, obviously, right?
Yeah, I was just curious your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, part of that too, like I zoom out a little bit more, right? And I think that we're in the middle phases of whatever it was that RH thought of a decade ago, like when he was first doing this stuff on Bitcoin,
right?
Worked, and now he's just rebuilding it and doing it proper because he saw everything that was wrong with it. So like, if Hex is the store of value, we're in the dollar area right now, and then we're actually going to recreating that stable coin, because our stable coin can't be based off the dollar, because the dollar is losing value, right? It's not stable. We need something that just is like, this is one and it's worldwide, and that will change the world because it'll give people actual freedom in other countries and places where they don't have money, like most of us that are sitting here on it.
You're fully right. And what's the most used cryptocurrency in the world right now? So it's not Bitcoin, it's Tether, USDT. And the reason it's saving people's lives around the world is because they earn money in their local currency, and instead of, you know, putting into Bitcoin, which is probably a decent move, but instead of throwing it into a speculative asset, they have faith in the USDT team that they are putting their money into something that is just pegged to a US dollar, rather than a normal US dollar. And so the USDT team is actually only a team of like 10 guys, and they make somewhere between $5 to $6 billion per year from from everybody using their stablecoin. And so we can't have that in crypto. You just can't have that kind of centralization of less than 10 people that control the world's one of the world's most prominent stablecoins. And so doing it this way, we're going to be, this is like the like you actually mentioned earlier, Sonny, where it's fixed income, where you start from the dollar from pdai, and then you just have an entire economy that backs it. And it's how we've always done things, which is really cool. But now it's just on code, and it has no middlemen, and it's the first time we've ever done this. And every time I think about this in depth, it feels so freaking weird to be at this stage, and the fact that we're early investors into it, really, really weird. It's almost it shouldn't be true. Majority in pdai or USDC, and if we do, we're kind of idiots because we'd make more money elsewhere in the ecosystem. And it's designed that way, where you leave your capital to get more capital by buying into something a bit more speculative that they then pair to something else, and it makes it so it's a steady ecosystem, zero central ownership. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I dropped there's a couple things I just dropped that shows, I don't know, it was a few days ago, where I don't know if it was a glitch in the matrix or what, but USDT went from $180 billion to $3 billion of the actual market. And then it rose right back up. I posted it. I found that on DeFi Llama, like the value of all the stables. And then I do know USDT is kind of rebranding on the ton. And they're also going to be launching another type of stable called XAUT that is going to be backed by gold. So I don't know what like it could have just been a glitch in the a glitch that why it tracked like that. But yeah, them with that kind of power is scary. But it might have been some other power showing them that you don't hold that much power. So it's very interesting to whenever I stumbled across that.
I gotta go, guys. But it was nice talking to everyone. The one thing I'll leave you with is take the time to learn about this, because, and it's gonna suck because you'll kind of be the only one in your network that grasps the severity and the magnitude of what's happening here. But learn about it, because it could be the most important thing you do ever. So I'll leave you with that, and have a good night, everyone.
Was that Ben?
Take it easy, Ben. See you next week.
Yeah, cheers, Ben. I'll add to that too, that you realize a lot of these spaces, and it's hard to onboard. It's hard to teach people because you can tell everything straight to their face, and they just don't get it. But like most of us that are here, and most of us are talking about this, you'll notice most of us are developers, or most of us have been in and reading blockchain for a long time. So it's why we see it.